welcome. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. I encourage everyone to please sit back, relax, and enjoy this evening's speaker. I met Mr. Andrew Young at a book signing at our AT&T office building in downtown Atlanta. And no, it was not in an elevator. He was promoting and personally signing his book called Walk in My Shoes. Walk in My Shoes is about conversations between Andrew Young and his godson, Kabir Sagal. My takeaway from reading Walk in My Shoes is that Andrew Young is passionate about passing on his thoughts and meditations on the topics of race, civil rights, faith, and leadership. He offers his wisdom freely to a new generation of young men and women in the hopes that his voice will inspire and encourage. Andrew Young was in the United States. He was a United States Congressman from 73 to 77, a U.S. ambassador to the United Nations from 1977 to 1979, mayor of Atlanta from 1982 to 1990. He is co-founding principal and chairman of GoodWorks International. Andrew Young has always viewed his career through the lens of his first career, that of an ordained minister. He worked for the civil rights and human rights. His many years in public office as Congressman, United Nations ambassador, and mayor. His leadership of the Atlanta Olympic Games, his advocacy for the public purpose, capitalism through GoodWorks International, and the establishment of Andrew J. Young Foundation are all in the response to his call to serve. Ambassador Young brings a unique perspective formed by his wealth of experience in national and global leadership to his focus on the challenges of this era. He confronted segregation with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and galvanized a movement that transformed a nation through nonviolence. Young was a key strategist and negotiator during the civil rights campaigns in Birmingham and Selma that resulted in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He was elected to the U.S. Congress in 1972 and served on the Banking and Urban Affairs and Rules Committees. In 1977, President Carter appointed him to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, where he negotiated an end to white minority rule in Namibia and Zimbabwe. Ambassador Young's leadership as mayor of Atlanta took place during trying times. He turned to international markets for investments in Atlanta. He attracting 1,100 new businesses, $70 billion in investments, while adding 1 million jobs to the region. Ambassador Young led the effort to bring the Centennial Olympic Games to Atlanta in 1996. As co-chair of the Atlanta Olympic Committee, he oversaw the largest Olympic Games in history. He was awarded the Olympic Order, the highest award of the Olympic movement. And Ambassador Young has received honorary degrees from more than 60 universities and colleges in the United States and abroad. President Jimmy Carter awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. President Jimmy Carter awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Sorry about that, it's a repeat. France awarded him the Legion of Honor for the greatest civilian honor in France. He also published 2 other books, A Way Out of No Way, A Fast, Easy Burden. When you hear him speak tonight, he will bring to us and to you the wisdom and inspiration from over 50 years of servant leadership. It is my honor and privilege to bring to you Andrew Young.
I'm thrilled to be with a group of project managers because I got projects going out of my ears. And I'm just looking for somebody to be crazy enough to take them on. Now, I got a pretty good record because the Olympics was such a crazy project that my secretary and staff wouldn't even give me an appointment with Billy Payne. They were sure that the Olympics, which had left Montreal in debt to the tune of $700 million, was about to do the same for us. Almost every project that turns out to be worthwhile starts out sounding crazy. And so I want to give you fair warning that I have some really crazy ideas. The only thing is, I think the world is just hungering for them. And we just need a team of project managers to figure out how to implement them. Before I became mayor, I just figured, I went to Baltimore and I saw the inner harbor, and I said, we got to do something like this in underground. People said, you're crazy. And yet we got underground. And when Maynard started talking about this huge airport, don't tell him I'm telling on him, but Delta actually hired a consultant to prove that we did not need to add the T concourse because Atlanta was never going to be an international airport. By the time the consultant finished his work, I had already signed up Lufthansa, Japan Air, and Swiss Air for gates. And they had already signed the contracts for those gates. And so we had to bill 24 hours, we had to bill around the clock to meet the schedule. But we were able to deliver on projects because we were willing to do crazy, difficult things, and we were determined to do them honestly and efficiently. The only advantage that I gave to our investors was a guarantee that we had a tradition that we intended to live up to of building projects on time and within budget. And the way we assured that was that I gave every potential investor my home phone number. We didn't have cell phones in those days. But everybody in the world that located a plant here had my home number. And they could call me any time of the day or night if there was a problem. And each person who came here to invest in a project was assigned somebody from my office to work with them so that they wouldn't have to take the time to learn our laws or environmental standards or they had someone to hold them by the hand and lead them through our system. And it worked. I only got one call. I got one call in 8 years at 3 o'clock in the morning from Japan. And it was early in the 8 years of my mayor. And the guy said, I'd been up there in Ohio, and every time I tried to get something going, there was somebody in government shaking me down. And you all do it different here. I said, what do you mean? He said, you wait till we get the project up, and then you refuse to give us a license. Who do I have to pay off? I said, wait a minute, hold on. I said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. Give me till 6 o'clock in the morning. I will try to get an answer back to you before you leave your office if you stay until 6 o'clock. 12 hours difference. I woke up the fellow in charge of this project, and he said, the only thing we need is an insurance policy number. And as soon as we know that this building is insured, we can turn the electricity on. I called him back about 4:45, and I said, all we need is the name of your insurance company and your policy number. And I said, and the lights will be on by 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, you made me wake up everybody in City Hall, so I hope you will be there to see that the lights are on. I have your people. He was so grateful. He went all over Japan telling people how efficient we were in the metropolitan area of Atlanta. And one of the reasons we got 1,100 companies to move here was after that, I went to Japan about once every 6 months. But I didn't have to go around door to door calling on companies. I sat in an office provided for me by one of the big conglomerates, and they brought people in, 10, 15, 20 at a time, for us to sell them on locating in the state of Georgia and the Southeast. And so I got pretty cocky about being able to do anything if you just are crazy enough to try it. And so we had industrial parks, we had downtown development, we had the airport, we had underground. And then I realized that I did not have a clue about what was going on. And I got a young fellow who'd finished engineering school. Well, he'd finished, when my daughter finished college, he finished engineering school up at Swarthmore. And he had come here straight from school, gotten a job with Parsons Brinkerhoff on MARTA. And he'd sort of gotten to be a millionaire before he was 25. And I said, look, I need somebody like you, because I don't know what's going on. We got the airport, we got MARTA, we got underground, we got highways, we got sewers, and I don't know the first thing about engineering. So he said, this city has blessed me. I said, I can't pay you but $45,000 a year, because my salary is just $50,000. And he said, okay, I'll give you a couple of years to get this thing started. He stayed with me all 8 years. And we had project managers in the mayor's office under the leadership of a young, dedicated engineer. And God only knows how much money that saved and how well that worked. One of the issues we had to take was a little before me, but the experts said that the only way we could build MARTA through downtown was cut and cover. And we had a little country engineer from Louisiana backwoods, went to Southern University, and he said, no, we can tunnel under Peachtree Street. Well, all of the MIT, Harvard, all the big shots said it can't be done. Next time you ride MARTA through downtown, just look at how beautiful that tunnel is. I'm saying that we took on impossible things, seemingly impossible things. We did not listen to the experts, and we did it together. I was saying at the table that Gwinnett had what do they call it? You can't issue any more licenses because your sewer capacity is down. DeKalb County's sewer capacity was strained, and so was ours, and none of us had enough money. But Manuel Malouf called me one day and said, "Andy, what you gonna do about your sewer problem?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "How much you got?" I said, "We got about 25 million set aside." He said, "Well, we don't have the 20. He said, "But I think if you don't mind letting Gwinnett sewage flow through DeKalb and Fulton County, we can get another $10 million from Gwinnett, because they can't build a new sewer facility with $10 million. We can't build one for $20 million, and you can't build one for $25 million, but if we get together, we can build a sewer facility that'll serve the region." I said, "That sounds good to me." He said, "Okay." He said, "I'll check with Lillian Webb." He called me back. He said, "What's your city council going to say about this?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "We got a deal." And he and his city council, he didn't take a vote on it, he announced it. He announced that we found a way to meet the sewer needs of the region. And that he talked to me and he talked to Ms. Webb up in Gwinnett, and together we had enough money to build it. He said, "Anybody object?" Nope. Done. And that's the way we used to be able to do things. But it was that everybody had the common good, and everybody had a common vision. We knew we could not make it alone. And so we found ways to do it together. I think we're coming back to that. But in the meantime, I think we've got a world that needs to learn what we already know. And that's really what I want to talk with you about. It really upsets me that I grew up in New Orleans. I watched the people build those levees with nothing but dirt in the CCC camps. And I have seen them when the water comes right up to the top and occasionally has overflowed. But we found a way to build the spillways, and it stopped overflowing. And we had here in Georgia all kinds of environmental problems. But we developed something called the Tennessee Valley Authority. And now, instead of water flooding all over the place and running wild, we catch it in lakes. And so we have Lake Altoona and Lake Lanier and Lake Spivey and more lakes than we know the names of. Those didn't happen by accident. Those were projects by people who understood the role of good government and who were not afraid to do things in the long-term interest of the nation and the world. We did the same sort of thing with Japan, and they were our enemies. We rebuilt Germany, and they had been our enemies. We reconstructed England, France, Italy, and we did it with taxpayer dollars, and nobody complained. Because in those days, we had sense enough to realize that taxpayer dollars invested wisely bring back an even greater return. And I don't know where we got off the notion that we can live on this earth free with no responsibilities. Now, I get upset with our president, and I get upset with the people in the White House, because did anybody here go to Harvard? Okay. MIT? That's good. Just some of the dumbest people on earth. Have been running our country because they have Harvard degrees, but they don't know squat. They were born rich. They inherited trust funds. They've never had a job. They've never met a payroll. They've never even run for something. And yet they are the experts. And I say to them, I said, look, you don't need a jobs bill. 33 states flooded when the Mississippi River overflowed last year. Don't you think it's going to overflow again next year? You may not want to call it global warming or climate change, but something is happening up there at the north, and it's flooding down south. And anybody in their right mind is not going to wait for it to flood 5 times before they start doing something about it. Plus the fact that I come from New Orleans, where we were the first ones to just about be flooded out way before Katrina. And what they did was downtown, where it used to flood all the time, they built a casino, a convention center, and the Riverfront Hotel. And so the restraining wall, when you go down to New Orleans to party, that's keeping the Mississippi River in check. But it's also the largest job generator in Louisiana other than the oil companies. And it paid for itself. People say, how do you all do things in Atlanta? I say, we do things sensibly. They say, what do you mean? Why can't Detroit do that? I said, I don't know about Detroit, but I know that, well, I do know about Detroit, but I don't want to talk about it now. But we decided that we needed an airport. So we went to Wall Street. We had a design, we had a project. We put it up for bid, guaranteed by the good faith and credit of the city of Atlanta, which had always maintained a AAA rating in its credit because we have to have a balanced budget every year. And we used to sell bonds, almost any bonds we drew up. We could sell them in less than a month, because they would pay 4 to 6% tax exempt. And that was more money that was paid by anybody's 401k during this last crisis. But when they started telling me how much money I was losing, I said, have you looked at Atlanta Airport municipal bonds? They said, no. I said, well, look, and put all of the money you can find of mine there, because I know that airport isn't going anywhere. And as long as it's there, it's going to be making money, because that airport generates $30.5 billion every year. It employs 55,000 people. And probably project managers in this room had to manage some part of it. But whoever did it well. And when you can invest $10 to $12 billion over a 10-year period, 20-year period, and get back $30 billion every year, it takes a damn fool. not to realize that that is good government. Now, some people around will not look at that. But I tell my friends in Africa, I met one Nigerian brother here, so don't let me, I'm not picking on Nigeria, but I say to my friends in Africa, you know, we don't have any oil. We had to use brain power. But I said, our airport generates more wealth for the southeastern United States than Nigeria's oil generates for Nigeria. It does. Nigeria's oil, when oil gets up to about $80 a barrel, they make about $30 billion. If it's less than $80 billion, they make less. But the thing about oil money, not all of it stays in the country. Every dollar made at the Atlanta airport practically circulates through McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and the parking lot and the car wash and the rent-a-car. And God only knows there's 60,000 people out there working. But you don't know how many restaurants, how many shoe shine parlors, how many dry cleaners. That whole part of the southeastern part of Atlanta and Clayton County and DeKalb County and whatever it is gets money regularly from that airport. And it's not going anywhere. We're opening another international section now, and we've come a long way. Delta's excited about it because they now realize that the busiest flight, I remember when I started talking about international flights, there was a fellow by the name of Louis Grizzard who used to make fun of me regularly. And we had a good friendship, and I didn't mind. But he used to laugh because Andy Young wants to fly to Lagos, Nigeria. Ha, ha, ha. Well, Delta's most profitable flight in all of its system, over 1,000 flights a day, is right now between Atlanta and Lagos, Nigeria. And the second most popular flight is Atlanta, most profitable flight is Atlanta to Johannesburg. Now, that means we have done something right. The question now is, how can we get the rest of the United States and how can we get the rest of the world to learn how to do that? And can we help them through the corporations with which you are employed? I read a little book and I'd highly recommend it. It's very short, very easy reading, and it'll change your life. And it's about jobs, it's not about religion. It's The Coming War for Jobs by Jim Clifton. And Jim Clifton is the chairman and CEO of Gallup Polling. So this is not his ideas or his theory. This is what people are telling him in all of the polling network they have all around the world. People are not interested in democracy, they're not interested in communism, they're not interested in capitalism, they're not interested in world peace, they're not interested in the environment. The number one thing that the world is crying for is a job. And a job is defined as something that pays $30 30 hours a week and with a regular pay check. And right now there are only 1.2 billion such jobs in the world. And there's 7 billion people. Now you can look at and listen to CNN and Fox News, and they can argue about Mubarak and Gaddafi and just pick a name, Berlusconi or Papandreou, and they say people don't like them. Got nothing to do with them. The problem is almost the same problem we have. We knew what we were doing. We built a very good city. Ivan Allen, Hartsfield, and the city fathers, when I came here, had a vision of a city of approaching 2 million people. And I was there when Sam Massell was elected mayor, and we put up that sign on front of the Darlington Apartments saying we'd reached our first million. Well, by the time I got to be mayor, we were almost to 2 million. And so I was going to be visionary and think about 4 million people. And so I went to the Department of Transportation. It turned out that both John Lewis and I had campaigned for him, and we got him to turn loose $900 million to go ahead and expand this expressway system, because we were thinking about 4 million people. And it's a good thing, because now we got 6 million people and we're in trouble. But that's what's happening all over the world. Jim Clifton says that the most urgent need in the world right now is 1.8 billion jobs. And he said it doesn't matter where they come from or who creates them. An army can't create them. You can't put that many people in the military. And an army cannot stop a population that is unemployed and angry. And he said the country that's going to lead the world is the country that leads the world in creating jobs. And that means we've got to do again what we did in the 40s after World War II. We're going to have to find a way to create jobs nationwide, to set up the mechanism to create jobs globally. If Lagos, Nigeria's airport was half as good as Atlanta's, it would be employing people. I haven't seen the Egyptian airport, but we know about airports. We know about mass transit systems. We know about housing. We know too much about housing. But we also know about project finance. And somehow we've got to find a way to lead the world. But I wish we'd start with the Mississippi Valley. I wish we'd start with the Mississippi Valley, because every state from Minnesota down to New Orleans flooded, 33 states. There's no reason for them to flood the cornfields and the wheat fields again next year. There are projects along that river that somebody knows about. In fact, if somebody really went online to the Army Corps of Engineers and pick a town, pick a city that you like, you know, and see what's in St. Louis, or what's in Cincinnati, or what's in Minneapolis, and any way you think you might know somebody, I bet you that there's a plan for river maintenance that's on somebody's website. And I know that with a little vision and a little leadership, we could put people to work all up and down the Mississippi corridor. All the smart people up there in Boston, at MIT and Harvard, they couldn't deal with Irene. I mean, Irene wasn't even a healthy hurricane. That's just a good Georgia rain. And yet their bridges and their roads were in such bad shape that it held them. They were incapacitated for months. Georgia Power could go teach Con Edison or whoever's running running the wires in Connecticut. I mean, when we have storms, trees blow down, but I don't even worry about it. I know that when the trees blow down in my neighborhood and the lights are off, I just light my candle or go to bed and figure that they'll have it right here by noon the next day. And that's what we're used to. And that's what the world needs. And so project managers This is your time. Most people don't know what you do. But it's time you tell them what you do. And it's time you go to them with specific projects, not wait to be hired or wait for somebody to put out a, what do they call it, a request for proposals. It's time for us to generate proposals. I was talking to a guy today in my office who's trying to head the sovereign wealth fund of Nigeria. It's a $6 billion fund. I said, the first thing you need to do is put it away where nobody can touch it. You don't want to spend a penny of it. He said, well, what are we going to? I said, you're going to use it as a guarantee, and you're going to leverage it, and you're going to let other people's money come in and invest. And sit on your money and don't let anybody steal it or waste it. Let the people come in, and he said, how does that work? Well, our office happens to be on the 44th floor of the Sun Trust building, so I just took him to the window. I said, you see all those buildings? And then when he looked down, he saw the Hyatt. I said, when we started off, that was the tallest building in this town. I said, you see all these buildings around here? They didn't cost any city money. We just gave them the right to invest in our city. And we challenged them with a good communication system and with good education and with good transportation and with the world's busiest airport where you can get anywhere in the United States and back the same day from the Atlanta airport, at least 80% of it you can. And I said, people suddenly realized that this is a good place to live. And they brought their money here by the billions of dollars. I said, now you've got oil, you've got gold, you've got bauxite, you've got diamonds. You don't even know what you got in Nigeria, you got so much. Every time you stick a stick in the ground, something happens. And I said, if you ever start developing, the process will continue to repeat itself, replenish itself. So all I'm saying is that we're in a desperate time now. Call your friends in the New England area and say, what are you all going to do about those bridges that washed out? We have some project management teams that know about bridges. What are you going to do? Isn't there something you can do with those roads so that they don't just completely fall apart every time it freezes? We helped make our roads sunproof. I'm saying that the science and business management of project engineering is really the demand in Egypt. If you'd had this group go to Egypt 5 years ago, and if Mubarak had listened, and you develop projects along the valley of the Nile, and just do what you do, there wouldn't have been a revolution. But we saw it happen in India. We saw India start turning out college graduates, and they were restless, and there was a turbulent period. And then all of a sudden, Indians who had been here for 2 or 3 generations started going back with money and with business know-how, and they created jobs. And India in the last decade is almost caught up with China. And the next decade they might. Nigeria's problem is that they're turning out 1 million college graduates a year. And I thought, well, I don't know what kind of degree this is. Till one of my little Nigerian friends came, and he was very shy and very country, and I just didn't know how he could make it. And he went out there to Georgia Tech, and I said, oh, Lord, have mercy on him. before Christmas, they had made him a calculus tutor. He had had so much math in Nigeria. And when I went back to Nigeria and got an honorary degree from the school that he went to, I said, how much advanced math do you have to take here to get an undergraduate degree? They said, we have to take 10 quarters of calculus and beyond to get out of the technical university in Nigeria. Now, you can look at that as a threat, or you can look at that as an opportunity. Look at that workforce. All we need is the projects, the project managers, and project management includes finance, doesn't it? Yes. All right. It's a done deal. All you all have to do is make up your mind how you want to do it. The world is in your hands. God bless you.